to day 7. You did it. You've made it to the final day. And I know that this has been quite intensive and we've put lots and lots of information, hopefully in manageable amounts of time. But this really is a kickstart. This was a springboard for you to move forward with your pelvic health. So I want you to try and keep this momentum going from this week. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look back through the week. We're going to start by looking at day 1. We're going to start looking at what was it that you're trying to change. And then I want to give you a few tips and a few ways that you can actually implement change and invest in your pelvic health in the long term and make it effortless. Make it normal and easy part of your life rather than this thing that you keep forgetting to do when you get into bed and you're like, oh, not done it again. So let's go back to day 1. We did our inventory on day 1. Do you remember? We were talking about bladder and bowel and pelvic floor, and we were looking at what's common and normal in terms of how bladder and bowel function is, and also some of those things that may not be quite as acceptable for our pelvic health. We also highlighted some of the things that you could be changing. So whether that was the fluid intake, your 2/3 to 1/3 ratio of, water to other drinks. And then at the end of that, I asked you just to pause and go, right, what things jump out to you that are clear areas that you need to address or change or optimize? So go back to those now and just have a look at them. Are they still things that you think, yeah, I still need to work on this, I need to change this? Or if you think through the other days, like our pelvic floor squeezes, our breath work, whether that was actually the technique of your pelvic floor, or whether that's the realizing how important your breath is, or maybe just looking where we brought together the hips and the pelvis and the whole body movement. What things jumped out to you of going, yeah, there's a clear area of mismatch with my body where this is obviously getting in the way of me having optimal pelvic health. So if you need to, pause me and just take a minute or two just to jot that down or adjust what you've already put there. Okay, so we want to be able to move forwards with these things, and I want to give you the skills to do that without having me talking to you absolutely every single day. So what I want to do is I want you to think of 2 aspects of moving forwards. I want you to think of the ultimate goal, and also I want you to think about the next step. So let's go ultimate goal. So the way I put this is, at the moment, if you're experiencing issues with your pelvic health, whether that's leakage or pain or prolapse or whatever it might be, you have an experience of it. And that is more powerful and more influential over your experience and your actual sort of symptoms than the actual physical problem itself. So your experience, what you like or don't like about it, how it feels, the sensation of it, what it allows you to do or not do, that is more influential than the actual physical problem itself. So I want you to imagine if we could eradicate that and you could have optimal pelvic health, and that was guaranteed, I could hand over a 100% guarantee to you right now, what would you do? What would life look like? How would you move? What would you eat? What would it free up your brain space and that worry and that anxiety or that distress so you could actually move forwards and just enjoy your life? So pause for a moment again and think, right, okay, let's kind of imagine what that would be. Would you go back to a hobby that you loved? Would you not panic about intercourse? Would you be able to wear clothes that you've been avoiding for years because you're worried about leakage? What would it be? Okay. So hopefully as you do that, what you're starting to see is that what we're changing is your belief in the lived experience of your symptoms. So your belief that actually I don't have to feel like this, but also sometimes when you've lived it so long, you forget what it would be like to not have those symptoms because you've just been carrying them on your shoulder. They just feel part of you almost. So having that clarity is going to help you to keep the focus because you know what it is that you want. You know what the real experience is that you're going after. And if you really know that and you want it and you think about it, you're going to keep going after it. It's going to keep your motivation and your engagement going. So let's talk next steps. We've got to be able to move forward and again and again and again. It's not about taking the ultimate kind of step to the final piece. It's about just taking one step after the next, after the next. So I want you to think about those things, and with however many you've written down, I want you to write down at least 2, if not 3 things you could do right now. So when this video finishes, if you have time, you could potentially go straight in and make those changes happen. So, for example, is it your fluids? You think, well, actually, yeah, I'm not drunk enough water yet today, so I'm going to start increasing my fluid intake, and I'm going to start my day with hot water and lemon rather than a cup of tea, and I'm going to, today I'm going to put in that curfew. I'm going to put a reminder on my phone right now to remind me not to drink any more after 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. or whatever it is that you've been thinking about. It might be that you're going, right, I've got to stick to this pelvic floor program. I finally have got clarity over what these pelvic floor exercises are, and I need to keep this up because I know I've got to invest. It's going to take at least 3 months for you to physiologically improve the bulk and strength of that muscle. So it might be that you download an app. You might decide to put reminders in your phone, or you might decide to anchor that to an activity. And I'm going to go over that in more detail in a moment. So for each of those, what is your next step? At least one, if not 2, 3 steps that you could take. And if we had all the time and you've got the capacity right now, you could pause this video and go, right, I'm actioning all of those now. Okay. So this is really important, and I want you just to keep coming back to this process. So it's not like you do the first step, you think of the goal, and that's it. You think of the goal, you do the steps, and you repeat it again. Okay, where am I? Am I near my goal? What's my experience now? How's that influencing my experience? Okay, what's my next step? And you keep stepping and stepping and stepping. Okay, so we're going to go through some of my top tips to help you stay on track and invest in your pelvic health. So number 1, get help. If you are feeling unsure, even after a whole week of having us here, if you feel, I'm not sure this is right for me, then please get help. Book the GP appointment. Go and get the swabs and the urine sample done. Go and speak to them about HRT. Come and book and see one of us guys for your pelvic health assessment. Get the support in terms of your personal training. And if you're not near us here in Sheffield and you don't have somewhere that you can kind of go to easily, there's some great resources that you can get good quality support from. So, for example, Squeezy app, the pelvic floor training app, which is one of the things that I will definitely be recommending when I'm talking about pelvic floor training next. On there's a directory, and you can go onto there and find a pelvic health physio who can help treat your symptoms in your area. So it's a great way to get support. If not, go to your GP, ask for the referral, go and see the consultant. So number 1, get help. If you are not seeing the outcome or you feel unsure about how to do it, get somebody on board who can actually help support you through that journey. Okay. Number 2, get consistent. Oh my goodness, this is so important. And it doesn't matter if it's about your fluid, your diet, your exercises, whatever it is that you're trying to change and influence, be consistent. And I would definitely recommend that you pick maybe 1 thing, maybe 2 things, and get really consistent with that, rather than getting loads and loads of things to do and then struggling to kind of really make the momentum of it. So number 2, get consistent with what you're doing. So number 1, get your help. Number 2, get consistent. Okay, last of all, number 3, know thy weaknesses. So if you tend to be really forgetful, or you know that you lack sort of consistency and, accountability, or, whatever it is that you're struggling with, know your weaknesses. What sort of learner are you? What sort of doer are you? Are you somebody who needs a community around you? You need people to G you up and continue that support with you? Well, good news, this group is staying open. We are not closing it at the end of these 7 days, and we're going to keep it open because we have just loved spending this week with you. So we're going to be here to continue supporting you through all different aspects of pelvic health, and we want to hear from you. So if you want topics covering or you've got questions, post it into this group and we'll be engaging and helping you guys with that. But likewise, you might want to do that a little bit more personally. You might like to get a friend or a family member to kind of partner up with and go, right, we need to keep consistent with this together. Can we support each other? Also, having that support and having that consistency through something like an app. So I mentioned Squeezy app before, which I think is one of the best pelvic floor training apps. Having something external that's going to remind you and keep you on track with your pelvic floor training can be so helpful. And I don't mind if people use an app or what we call anchoring. So an app, which can either be a proper app like Squeezy app, which you set up your program, it reminds you, you do it along with it, you've got this nice visual feedback, so it's really supportive in your learning. It might be that you just simply set alarms to go off on your watch or your phone, just a little nudge to be like, yep, time to do those pelvic floor exercises again. But make sure when you're setting up those apps and those reminders that you're doing them for a reminder of a time of day where you're most likely to be able to do it. Don't do it for when you know you're always in that meeting, or you're always, on the school run, or, whichever reason it is. Make sure it's a time when you're actually going to do it. Okay. So in terms of consistency then, I want you to get that support. I want you to get that app, and then the anchoring, as I was saying. The anchoring is where you attach it to something else that isn't going to change. So if you always, have a commute on the same route, or if it's you answer emails regularly through the day, or maybe every time you make a drink, I want you to start anchoring your pelvic floor exercises, or anchoring whatever it is, the health change you're trying to do, to the thing that isn't going to change. So I had one lady years ago, she had a little coffee machine, decaf coffee, don't worry. She had decaf coffee, and she used to have 3 of them per day. And every time she pressed the button, and if you've got a coffee machine, you can hear that noise right now, can't you? She trained herself that when she heard that noise, that made her want to do pelvic floor exercises. And that's how she got her training done. She just anchored it to something that was already going to happen. And I was never going to get her off those 3 coffees a day anyway, so we might as well make the most of them. So 3 things for your success. You've got your consistency, you've got your accountability, and you get help. Okay, so those are the top 3 things. And I want you just to sit down for a little bit longer. I know I keep asking you to do this, but just pause for a little bit longer. These few minutes of investment is going to be so valuable for you having success long term with this as well. So, as we've been saying today, rewind back to the beginning. What were you saying about your bladder-bound pelvic floor at the beginning of the week? And what were the areas that you've highlighted you need to implement change for? Then I want you to think about what the ultimate experience would be of optimal pelvic health, and how you can start making those steps today. Okay, simple, easy steps. I don't want anything difficult. I want stuff that you can tick, win, go again, make another change, keep moving forward. And you keep going between the optimal outcome, my next step. What's my optimal outcome? What's my next step? And then last of all, we think those 3 pointers to keep you on track. Get the help, get consistent, and get accountability, get that support. Okay. Well done, everybody. I think you've had just the most amazing input. It's been so much fun kind of talking to you all and listening to your experiences this week. There is so much going on in the group, so if you haven't checked out the other videos, you haven't seen things like our prize draw and our challenges and everything else that's going on, bob off of this, finish your homework, and get back into that group. And we are so grateful that you have chosen to say yes to your pelvic health this week.